The Spurs preseason is finally over. We had them close it out with a couple big games with Keldon Johnson and Joshua Primo back in the lineup. These are your 5 takeaways from the preseason 2022. First off, man, I think we're all worried about the offense and how we're going to score points. And I think that fear comes from we hadn't seen it before. But I think what we've seen in these last 2 games is that these 3 dudes, Keldon Johnson, Devin Vassell, and Joshua Primo, can carry the load on offense, and they can be your 3 main output productors on the offensive side of the floor. We saw that in that first game against Utah. Keldon had an amazing breakout game. He was 4 for 5 from the 3-point line, 9 for 13 from the field. Didn't get to the free throw line, but just had a great game in 22 minutes, put up 22 points. Then you had Devin Vassell, who has been there from day one, also chip in with 24 points. And then Joshua Primo coming off that bench in his first preseason game. It was kind of a little bit underwhelming, but then the script flipped itself going into that next game against OKC, where Keldon actually had a rough shooting night from the 3-point line. Devin Vassell was able to chip in 18 points in 28 minutes. Story of the night was Joshua Primo, scoring that basketball off the bench. I mean, dude went nuts. 8 for 12 from the field, 1 for 4 from the 3-point line. So nothing too crazy from the 3-point line, and was still able to rack up 23 points. And he went 6 for 6 from the free throw line. Devin Vassell went 5 for 5 from the free throw line, and then Keldon chipped in 3 for 4 as well. So they were being way more aggressive against OKC than they were against Utah, just trying to get to the paint, get to the free throw line, and make something happen. And I think the big takeaway from the preseason, really focusing in on these last 2 games, is that I don't think we should be that worried when it comes to who's going to score the basketball. I've been saying it now for a few months that I believe wholeheartedly this season, even though we hadn't seen it out of Devin and Keldon, Primo, I believe they have more capable hands to put points up on the board. And that's going to do well for this team. And the big question is, can this play out for the whole season? All right, so the second thing that I want to talk about is Jeremy Sochan as a starter. Not just as a player, but as a starter, right? How has he performed in these last 2 games? Again, we're talking about, we're focusing in on these last 2. In both games, played about 20 minutes, 21 minutes, 6 points in both games, but what we're starting to see is him get more comfortable. Right now, I'm gonna put up some words up on this screen that came to mind when brainstorming Jeremy Sochan's production as a starter in these 2 preseason games. One, it's raw potential. He's very skilled in a lot of ways, but when it comes to showcasing it, he's finding non-skilled ways to do that. He's finding more will ways, right? More ways to impact the game with his energy level. And with that comes some rookie mistakes, right? So we saw against OKC, he got hit with that flagrant one for closing out a little bit too close to the shooter. Those type of things are going to happen. But where he's really making his name is by cleaning up all the mess, right? Just putting back, missed shots and cleaning up rebounds. And that's what's causing him to be an impact player so far in these 2 games, is that he's not calling, he doesn't need any shots called for him. If he's not afraid to shoot them, but he's here to make an impact on the game. And that's by doing the dirty work so far. And comfort matters with Sochan. I've been talking about, he's that type of player that all he needs to do is get comfort, right? We don't need him to score the ball. We're not going to draw up any plays for him. We're not asking him to be an aggressive scorer. But when you're one of those guys who does the dirty work, the more comfortable you are in your role, in the amount of minutes that you play, and just, playing in this pace and at this level, the more productive he's going to be. And the quicker that turnaround is, the faster he will be able to impact this team. And the last thing is that consistency battle at the power forward spot. I love seeing him in there over Keita and Isaiah Roby. I didn't think it was going to happen. I thought, Coach Pop was gonna rely on those veteran guys, but he seems to be willing to put Sochan right into that fire. And I think it's because he is the best complement for Jakob when you're talking about those 2 other guys. What Sochan is able to do for Jakob is make his job so much easier, right? He doesn't have to get every rebound. He doesn't have to battle at the rim with every drive to the basket, right? Sochan is here to help with those things, and hopefully that lets Jakob showcase even a little bit more this year than he even did last year, right? So that's Jeremy Sochan as a starter. Now, the next thing we're going to talk about is that point guard spot. I think this was probably one of the biggest questions coming into preseason, was who's the starting point guard? Who are the point guards? We have kind of Primo and Blake Wesley, evolving into a point guard. They're not natural born point guards. That's more of Trey Jones, right? So with Primo being injured, we saw that Trey Jones was the starter, right? And I think we're starting to see a real heated battle for this position. I don't know if you guys are seeing it or if it's just me, but when these two guys are on the floor together, it's not really that cohesive. I see more frustration plays than I do positive ones, even though they've had a really, there was that, 2014-esque ball movement play where both of them were on the floor. But taking that play out of it, I'm not seeing these two guys mesh well together on the floor. So I think keeping them separate is the way to go. Stagger them in a way. Maybe have them play a little bit of minutes together, but mostly apart. Now, I don't mind at this point Trey Jones with this starting spot. I think Primo coming off the bench, that gives him more opportunity to be aggressive offensively and look to be that six man and just don't hold back. And we saw against OKC when he can get it going, you know, he can really put the ball in the hole from three levels. He can get to the rim. He can hit a little mid range floater. Still working on those turnovers, right? Because that's a big deal. But as if he is starting to create more and drop more assists, well, then you can live with some of the mistakes in the turnover column. But I think what it is just that we have Primo and Trey Jones. They're really gonna battle it out. I think at the point guard spot. I think, like I've been saying, I think if you want the best team on the floor, you put Primo in there. If you want to evolve into the best team on the floor, that's what you do. But if you want to operate the best you can now, you definitely stick Trey Jones in there. He's an awesome point guard. He's obviously also trying to get to the rim, trying to put the ball in the hole a little bit more. But he has his limitations defensively because of his size and whatnot. But Primo is a great floor setter, floor general type player, and so you can't go wrong with either of them. At the starting spot. But I think that what these two guys have shown in these last two preseason games is that they're going to get all the minutes. And that's why we haven't seen Blake Wesley since New Orleans, right? And that's because Blake Wesley, what in Primo's absence, was getting a lot of tick. And now that Primo is back, that changes a lot of things, right? And Primo back in the lineup really does push Blake, out of the picture because all of those minutes are going to go to Primo. Unless there's some type of nagging injury along the way, I think this is the rotation we're going to see. We're going to see Trey Jones start. We're going to see Primo come off the bench until Primo goes off and takes that starting spot. Now, that's going to be a lot of fun to watch happen this season. So let's kind of go on to the next part of this episode. I want to ask you guys, my big questions is really my fourth takeaway. I want to know what you guys think. Are we going to be better this season, similar to last season, or worse? I have always been in the boat of we're going to be probably just as good as last year. I think we are giving the ball to more capable players that we already had on the team. Keldon, Devin Vassell, Joshua Primo. It's just the way it is. That's why a lot of guys got traded and we're going in this route. I don't see us getting worse. I do see the league getting better, though. So that's why I can still see us being towards the bottom of the draft. But I don't think we're going to lose 3 to 5 games less, or more than we did last year. We're going to be right around that same ballpark, right? So I think the league is getting better, and that's kind of where that separation comes when we're talking about draft picks, right? We're going to be all right, but everyone else is kind of getting better. The next big question is, does Primo stay coming off the bench? I mean, I don't know. You guys gotta chime in and help me out with that one because the coach in me says it's a good plan. The developmental kind of picture, though, definitely says the other way around. The next big one, the next big question coming out of preseason is who's the backup big guy? I mean, we saw Collins heavy in the beginning. We saw Jang a little bit more towards the back end. And you know what? I don't really know who's the best fit. I like Jang. Right now I'm rolling with Jang. I love what he's doing right now on the floor. And I'm still waiting to see who these final cuts are going to be to close out this roster. So stay tuned for that. We'll find out, what this roster is going to look like sooner rather than later. All right, so let me know what you guys think about those in the comment section below. So let's talk about what we think the Spurs roster is going to look like, and let's try evaluating that depth. All right, so first off, let's take a look at these guards, man. We got Devin Vassell, Trey Jones so far starting, right, each game. Primo, Richardson, Langford, I kind of think he's going to stick around here. And again, Blake Wesley and Malachi Branham are most likely going to see scrap minutes, right? I don't see them really edging out anything big this season, more of just opportunity. If opportunity presents itself to them, they'll be ready to go. And in the meantime, they'll probably be in Austin, up and down from Austin for sure. The wing depth, we're getting Keldon and Jeremy Sochan starting. I love seeing Doug McDermott, Keita, and Isaiah Roby in this mix. I love having two or three of these, 5 players on the floor at once. I think that's when we're at our best, is when we have one guard from the previous slide, maybe two, and but you focus more on providing length, and we've seen that a lot during this preseason, where we've gone big. We've gone with Sohan, Keita, and Roby, on the floor all at the same time, with Devin Vassell or Trey Jones and Jakob, right, for instance, right? Great lineups, great wing depth. I think we're actually in a good position with our wings. Okay, so big man depth. This is the one where I don't know, man. We're still struggling pretty good with this. Jakob obviously is going to be the starter and is going to be the guy getting majority of the minutes. Then I think it's Zhang, and then I think it's Zach Collins. And Dominic Barlow had an awesome debut. Shout out to you, Dominic Barlow, if you're watching this. You belong on this depth chart. Good luck in Austin. Make a name for yourself. Come on over next year. Let's go, Barlow. All right, so what's coming up next for the Spurs? They got their season opener against Charlotte in San Antonio, and then after that season opener, they got a 4-game road trip, right? So they're going to go up to Indiana, head over to Philly, and make a back-to-back stop in Minnesota to close out that road trip, right? So a tough first 5 games for the San Antonio Spurs. If you're into polos, check out the Polo Pick of the Week in the community tab. That's the San Antonio Spurs Columbia Golf Club black and white striped polo. Love it. Check it out. Guys, follow us on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, all that good stuff. If you really want to support this channel, you're doing it right now. You're watching this video, so thank you so much for doing that. Let me know what you think of these next 5 games coming up for the Spurs. Do you think we're going to be 1-5? Do you think we're going to be 0-5, 3-2, 2-3? You guys let me know in the comments section below. So thank you guys for stopping by. Those were the 5 takeaways from the preseason.